Hello guys, this is your host Zach Weaver bringing you Off the Air, a media news show. For this segment I want to talk to you about Apple's acquisition of Shazam and their plans for keeping up in the in music streaming and home device market. So first things first, I want to get into the acquisition. So according to TechCrunch, Apple has acquired the London-based music and image recognition service Shazam, and it's used by hundreds of millions of people around the world and on multiple platforms. This deal went for around $400 million. But it sounds like Apple got a really good deal on it because Shazam was valued at over $1 billion. So it seemed like a smart buy for Apple to purchase them. And a couple of other companies were in the running for purchasing it. Snapchat and Spotify were very interested in purchasing this as well. Snapchat seemed to have seemed to not have very good stock prices this year, and since Facebook's acquisition, Snapchat wasn't in a position to purchase Shazam, and also Spotify, although they have twice as many subscribers as Apple Music, Spotify didn't have the capital to pay what Apple was able to pay for Shazam. So Apple has it. Some of the what are some of the things that makes Shazam unique? Shazam seems to provide their music recognition, and they can hear a clip and tell you what you're listening to, which that's been able to be done for a while, but they provide more info about to the users about the music and the artists that they're listening to. They also keep charts on popular music based on the clips it hears and that people want to identify. So it keeps track of which songs are being asked to be recorded the most often, and have faster and more accurate results of that music recognition. And some of it is visual recognition as well. Augmented reality apparently plays into this, but Shazam can identify, I assume they can identify album covers or even other band memorabilia or objects that would be that appear and associate with music. So Shazam does a handful of different things, and it's already been integrated with Apple Music, because it refers a lot of its users, has referred over 100 million users to the Apple Music platform, just as part of its service, independent of Apple, while it was still in the running to be purchased. Even before that. So what does Apple benefit from by acquiring Shazam? Well, Apple would integrate it in with their Apple Music and iTunes, and they could their subscriptions and their downloads would benefit from a wider use of they benefit with a wider use of Apple Music, and it would benefit a wider hardware business for Apple. So definitely a good thing for Apple to have this. Definitely a good thing for Apple that Facebook's Snapchat doesn't have this, or that Spotify doesn't have this, and that gets into the competitive side of this. It also makes sense because Apple purchased. Quick little side note: Apple bought Beats Electronics in 2014 for $3 billion. $3 billion. So a much bigger deal that Google bought. Well, Beats is the hardware side of it, um, but but Shazam is the software side, and they're pretty good software at that. And so as competition goes, Google has a lot going against it. Apple has a lot going against it. I mean, it is a competitive market. They have to compete against Apple Music, and iTunes has to compete against services like Google Play, Spotify, YouTube Red, to name the big dogs. Right now, for $25 a year, iTunes Match will let you, or through iTunes Music, Apple Music, their iTunes Match will let you stream 25,000 songs through your iTunes Music library. Even songs from CDs are not purchased from the iTunes store. So there's a lot going for, they have their they have their previous platform integration to this, which benefits for them. You can still use your CDs, you can still use your iTunes. A lot of people still have iTunes from way back 10 years ago. I know I still have my iTunes account somewhere from high school. So yeah, there's a lot of, but Apple still has a lot of competition. But Apple Music only accounts for, right now, it accounts, according to Motley Fool, accounts about 10% of Apple's services revenue, and they anticipate that it'll quickly jump to 13% by the next quarter with this acquisition. So this all plays into Apple's voice recognition service and artificial intelligence service, Siri, which is in direct competition with Google Voice and Amazon's Alexa. And Google and Amazon are already ahead of them on these home music services, with the Google Home and Amazon Echo already being around. Apple was late to the game, and unfortunately for them this year, although they announced Apple HomePod coming, they announced it back in June and said it would be around before Christmas. It hasn't been released yet. People haven't been able to buy it. So Siri and Alexa, or the HomePod, Google's HomePod and Amazon's Echo have continued to succeed and have benefited from Apple's HomePod not being around yet. But Apple might still have the last laugh because they recently they have Beats and they have Shazam. And it's hard to say. Google and Amazon are tough. That's a tough race to get in the middle of. And so the competition is fierce. I can't help but feel like if Steve Jobs was still here, Apple wouldn't, it wouldn't be nearly as difficult for Apple to stay in this game. Not to say that Apple isn't in the game, but I feel like Steve Jobs wouldn't let it get out of hand like this. But it's a different company. Tim Cook runs it. Runs it differently, and he's still managed to keep everything running. But it's just not quite the same company. I feel like it was when they released the iPod and the iPhone, and so hopefully for Apple's sake that these acquisitions, but mainly the Shazam acquisition that just happened, will get there. Will keep them in the race against Apple Home or Google Home and Amazon Echo. All right, guys, we'll keep in touch.